Hey, Trails Collective, Ian here with the results and voices portion of the weekly rundown for the Trails Collective. So in this episode, we will give you a bit of a snapshot into some of the events that ran this prior week, and also where we can bring you some of the voices from the field, whether it be RDs or finishers or entrants from the mix. So there were a handful from this past weekend, so let's just get into it. First one was the Stone Mill 50-mile endurance run. It was the 11th running going down on the Seneca Greenway and Muddy Branch trails in Montgomery County, Maryland. The course is rolling with predominantly single track with a few stream crossings. They had 167 finishers with Paul Jacobs and Meg Ryan taking the overall men's and women's wins. Second one was the MDT Trail Challenge Trail Race. It's a free 7-miler running on the Mason-Dixon Trail in Darlington, Maryland. Really is an opportunity to expose more people to what sounds like a pretty nice resource in that area. This year with COVID, it was limited to 100. Amos King was the first male in the new course record of 1 hour and 47 seconds. And Andrea Griffith was top female on the day in 1 hour, 34 minutes, 49 seconds. Thanks to the MDT crew for checking in. And we've got a clip here to tune you in a bit to the event.
Rob Bartholomew here. I'm the event director for the MDT Challenge. I'm here with Andrea Griffith. She's this year's female winner of the Mason-Dixon Trail Challenge. Andrea's going to ask me a couple of questions.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Andrea.
Can you tell us about the MDT Challenge?
Well, the MDT Challenge is a 7-mile race here on the Mason-Dixon Trail in Harford County. For the race, participants have to navigate the trail system by using just trailblazers. I don't mark the course with survey tape. I don't put pie plates out with arrows. So it makes it a little bit more mentally challenging for the participants to go out there and navigate a trail system with just trailblazers.
And why did you create the challenge for us?
Well, myself and my wife Kathy were volunteer trail maintainers on the Mason-Dixon Trail system. So we'd go out there and we'd maintain the trail, and we very seldomly saw anybody using the trail system. So we thought, how do we reach out there and how do we tell people, hey, come out and check out this trail system. It's a beautiful trail. So we created the Mason-Dixon Trail Challenge to try and get people to be aware of our trail system.
And what's one reason why you think people should come and try this challenge in particular?
Well, first off, the Mason-Dixon Trail Challenge is a free event. We don't charge anything. We want people to come out and participate. Everybody's welcome. We want runners, we want walkers, we want hikers. This year, first place finisher was Amos King. He finished in just over 60 minutes. Our final finisher was Dan and Laura Bone, and they finished in just over 4 hours. And everybody was here cheering them on, the first place finisher, the final finisher. We're glad to see everybody out here. We're one big happy family. Mm-hmm. Also, one reason to come out here is the cookies. We have homemade cookies. I think Olivia, Andrea's daughter, makes a large amount of those cookies. We have them at the turnaround and we have them at the finish. I know that's why I keep coming back for those homemade cookies.
The cookies are a nice bonus.
They are. Cookies are a big bonus.
And what other events take place on the Mason-Dixon Trail?
Well, first off, in December, we have Mason-Dixon Shortest Day 50K. In June, we have the Mason-Dixon Longest Day 100K. Both of those events start at sunrise, and the goal is to beat the sunset. So your goal is to finish prior to that sun setting. And then next November, we will have the 4th annual Mason-Dixon Trail Challenge.
Sounds great.
Okay. And now, Andrea, I have a question for you. First off, you've run the race all 3 years. We've had the event for 3 years. You've done it all 3 years. What do you like about the course, and why do you keep coming back?
Well, there's a point in the race every year, usually as I'm going up one of the long hills, where I swear I'm not coming back the next year because it is challenging, but honestly that's why I like it. Even though it's a shorter distance compared to most trail runs, it is challenging because of the terrain, because of the elevation gain. But one reason why I really like it is that even though I run this trail often because it's close to where I live, I enjoy sharing it on this day with other people, and a lot of times people who haven't done it before, and it's fun to experience it with them.
Okay, I think that's it. I hope to see everybody out on the trail someday soon.
So keep it on your radar for a nice late season short race for 2021. 8 hours of the brewery went down. It was a 4 and 8 hour event. Another solid offering put on by the crew at Steep Endurance. This round ran at the Housatonic River Brewing Company in New Milford, Connecticut, and over a 1 mile flat trail and grass loop. 8 hour winners were Justin Kowski at 55 miles and Tessa Ma at 46 miles. And for the 4 hour, the first across was Julia Moorer with 26 miles and Cody Cutler with 31 miles. And R.D. Brian Vanderheiden sent over this clip as a reflection of the day. And the Moreau Half Marathon, an event put on by the crew at Mountain Dog Running, which uses the rolling single track of the Moreau Lake State Park in Gansevoort, New York, which is in Albany's capital district. Shaun Donegan and Michelle Merlis both took the respective men's and women's wins, and I was able to check in with both of them. And to both of you, thanks for following up last minute and getting us in these clips. So, Michelle?
Hi, my name is Michelle Merlis, and I live in Albany, New York. This past Saturday, I had the opportunity to participate in the inaugural Moreau Trail Half Marathon at Moreau State Park. The half marathon is produced by Mountain Dog Running, and it was their first ever race that they directed. So kudos to the race directors for getting it done in the most extreme of conditions. The race itself, which of course happens at Moreau State Park, is fairly technical and hilly. The course has a little bit under 3,000 feet of elevation gain and loss. It is a loop around the entire park, so you really get to see the whole thing. It's not quite the Adirondacks or the Catskills, but the terrain is a fair amount more technical than some of our other local trails. The park itself is pretty underutilized in my opinion, and I am definitely guilty of being one of those local trail runners who has underutilized it. So this race provided a really great opportunity for me to not only get on the start line for the first time in almost an entire year, but to also really explore the park. I did a couple of training runs up there and got to learn the trails a little bit more, and I'm just super impressed and can't wait to go back. It's perfect training grounds for something like escarpment without having to travel all the way down to the Catskills if you live further up north. So the race itself, the start is on a beach and then you kind of run into the woods, and the first 3 miles are pretty brutal, mostly uphill. You do get a decent amount of elevation gain in those first 3 miles, including a segment called the Staircase of Death, which is, as you imagine, basically a rock staircase, and it's pretty steep, but short-lived. So once you're at the top of the Staircase of Death, if you've survived, then you are blessed with some really soft pine running, and someone did go through and leaf blow most of the first half of the course, so that was really nice, and it made for some faster running. The second half of the course is quite a bit more technical and hilly in my opinion than the first half, and because it was also not leaf blown, you did have to deal with the unknown of what was beneath your feet. And like I said, it's a pretty sparsely used park, so a lot of those trails haven't been really packed down and leaf cover is pretty thick. But overall, just a really cool course, super challenging, but short enough that, you know, a lot of different skill levels and people with different experiences of different distances could cover the course. For myself, the race pretty much turned into an FKT attempt because I ended up running alone almost the entire race. So I started in the first wave with 6 other men and ran basically alone the whole time. So I definitely had that FKT mentality that someone might be right behind me or finish with a faster time but have started 20 minutes after me. So that really kept me pushing throughout the entire day. And as for racing during the time of COVID, it's not something that I honestly thought I would do. But I feel really lucky that the race directors in my area who have been able to put on races have had really strict protocols. The parks have been very kind in opening their gates for us to have a few races at them. And of course we understand that there are restrictions in place and everybody followed them perfectly. So that was really reassuring. And I would just say that it was really nice to be at a trail running event. I feel like I can go out in the woods and push myself anytime, so I don't necessarily need to get on the start line of a race to be competitive. But what I really did miss was that trail community, and just even the 10 minutes before the race, and you know, I think I stuck around for like an hour and a half afterwards, just talking to people that I haven't seen in a year, hearing about all the cool adventures that they've had or how things are going, and it's really that trail community vibe that I've missed. So I feel really lucky to have been a part of it, and I can't wait to do it again next year.
And Shaun, take it.
Shaun Donegan coming at you here. This past weekend marked the inaugural Moreau Half Marathon Ultra. A really cool race. Formerly it had been run as the Moreau 15K, but it never really attracted as much attention as I think it deserved due to poor marking, poor advertising. Luckily, Bill Hoffman took it over and really marketed the course, tried to get it out there, tried to bring in some big names to host the 2020 Moreau Half Marathon Ultra. Ended up being just over 14 miles. The course was a mix of technical trails and maybe a little bit of loamy, rooty sections, but for the most part it was pretty rocky, pretty gnarly, which is just the way a lot of us guys like it. Pretty serious elevation, about 2,500 feet of gain over the course. One section in particular that I really enjoy, which is actually shown on my shirt, is called the Staircase of Death, and it's a section of trail that climbs just about 1,000 feet in a little over 1.2 miles. That happened right at about the 1 mile mark of the race too, so we were just getting warmed up and we hit the Staircase of Death. It was a really fun course. We had a good time. There was about 50 people and there was a wait list to get in. They capped it at 50. Like I said, Bill had done a really good job of trying to market the course and get people to run this race. It also fell the day before a very popular in-person race that was happening, a road race that was happening just 30 miles south of Moreau. So there was definitely some people who may have chose to do the road race instead. In terms of 2020, for me, this was only my third in-person race. All my races have been trail races this year. I know for a lot of people they were also really excited to just see an in-person race, and for some people there it was their first and maybe only race of 2020. I'm pretty happy to say it's been my favorite race of this year. And I used to run the Moreau 15K quite a bit. The course was similar, except that we added a loop out to Lake Bonita and back. So basically the Moreau Half Marathon Ultra runs the entire Palmertown range, so I'd say it's more like an adventure than a race. It's really cool. There's a little bit of orienteering. It's well marked, but you know, there's still a lot of trails, and with the leaves being down, it made things difficult at times. Luckily, I live in the area, so I run this place a lot, and it helped me out a little bit. I was able to run with the lead guys, and I even had to direct them to stay on course a couple times. Bill Hoffman put on a great race, getting everybody started on time, getting everybody their goodie bags, and of course doing it all in a really safe manner, which I think put a lot of people at ease. There were wave starts to start the race. We started on the beach of beautiful Moreau Lake, and like I said, he just did a fabulous job of marking the course. I think he put something like 50 or 60 miles of running in just that weekend, having run the course multiple times to pick flags up, to take flags down, and he did it with a very small crew. If you don't know Bill Hoffman, you should try to follow him on Strava. He's a crazy ultra athlete guy, and I know he is looking to do some other really cool races coming up in the future. Me personally, at the Moreau Half Ultra, I had a great race. I have not really run longer than 10 miles since July, so I was a little nervous about going in and running 14 miles on some really technical terrain. So I figured I was just going to run to mile 10, and if I had anything in the tank, I was going to go then, and that's exactly what I did. I ran with the lead pack of a couple guys until about a little past 10. We started losing a few guys, and then 12, it was just me and one other guy, Ian, and I decided to go at mile 12 on a downhill and hopefully get a little bit of a lead, and hopefully I wouldn't see him again, because I was going to use up a lot of my energy to get that, and it paid off. So I ended up coming across the finish line first in, I think, 2:07 or something like that, just under a 9-minute pace, which if you get to check out the Strava data for Moreau, it's a lot of ups and downs, so it's a pretty good time. Just for reference, I've done the escarpment before, ran a 3:07 there, and when I was training for the escarpment, I did a lot of my work at Moreau because the terrain is very similar. Moreau Half Ultra course is pretty runnable. There was not a lot of sections where you would need to walk, other than maybe the Staircase of Death, but a lot of it was very runnable. It was a really great race. Like I said, I had a great time. The guy who finished behind me, Ian, he's a great dude. He drove up here, I think, from Western New York. He's an ultra guy, and you know those ultra guys. The day after the race, I limped along for a 3-mile shakeout run, and he went for a 19-mile shakeout run, so my hat's off to him. But anyway, if you're looking for a really great race to do next year, check out the Moreau Half Ultra. All right, take it easy.
And the last one of this week's mix for formal events was the Tiadaghton Trail Challenge 10K and half marathon. It's run in the Pine Creek Valley of PA. Sounds like an absolutely beautiful course. It was an event that was created as a memorial and to bring the Tiadaghton Trail back to fruition. And the course description is as follows. The course will take runners on technical, rocky, and moss-covered trails with heartbreaking climbs and quad-busting descents. Amazing scenery will include vistas, dark hemlock and oak forest areas, trout streams, and small cascading waterfalls. That sounds pretty nice. So I did reach out to several in that mix. Number 3 male Bob Bauer on the day, and number 2 female Capri May from the half. We're both able to follow up in short order, so thanks to both of you. And I will play them back to back here to give us a snapshot of Tiadaghton. So take it.
Hi Ian and the Trail Collectives. This is Capri May reporting about the Tiadaghton Trail Half Marathon that took place in Waterville, Pennsylvania this past Sunday. A little background about me and trail running. I'm completely new to the sport, and this is my second ever trail race that I took part in, but managed to place in second for females, so that was pretty exciting for me. 2020 with COVID has been a rough year for everybody in running. For me, I trained for 2 full road marathons. The first one got canceled for COVID reasons back in March, about a week before the marathon, and the second one took place in October, and I had to back out 4 days before the marathon. So I did 2 full marathon training cycles, but unfortunately didn't get to run a marathon. So I decided to put my energy towards trail running and step away from the road stuff for a while. I signed up for the race about a week prior to the actual event based on a couple friends were doing it, and we decided to make a day of it. The race ended up being about 14.4 miles long with 3,200 feet of elevation. In terms of COVID protocols, similar to New York, a little bit more relaxed, but for the most part, people were maintaining distance and several people were wearing masks. The race started out with about a half a mile of asphalt and packed cinder, and then went right into a single track for about 4.5 miles. It was pretty fast and pretty flat. For me, I was kind of just cruising along, having fun, more looking at the scenery than actually kind of racing. But I ran into my friend Nick at an aid station at that point, who told me I was the fourth female. And so that's kind of when I decided to actually try to race and see if I could hunt down any ponytails and maybe get into third place. So from there, it was about a runnable mile, still a little technical. And right from there, it went into a very steep climb. It was definitely like a wild goat path, and there was definitely no trail. It was only marked by the tape, and if there wasn't tape or people, I would personally have no idea where I was going. But at that point, that's where I did see my first ponytail that I was trying to hunt down, and that's when I was able to get into third place at that point. From there, they had the second aid station. I decided to skip over it because I wanted to chase down more ponytails at that point. But for anybody who's interested in racing for in PA, they did have lots of fireball shots available at that aid station. So quite a few people were probably going to stop there and enjoy those. But once we were on the top of the mountain, it was pretty flat for the mile and a half that we were up there, but it was very technical, lots of big rocks up there, but still very runnable. And that led to the first descent, which for me, being kind of new to trail running, is definitely an area of weakness. And that's where I did get past. But I was able to pass that woman back once we hit the next climb, which was extremely steep. It was for about a mile up. It was more climbing and crawling over boulders than I would say actually running or even speed hiking at that point. I definitely used a lot of my hands. That's also when the rain started for me, so things definitely got a lot more slick at that point, but it was really fun. And that's where I managed to get into second place, was during that climb. So once we got to the top of that second and what was the final climb, on the top of the mountain was more single track, again very technical, but there was the final aid station with lots more fireball shots, probably some Jaeger shots up there as well, and also a strange man that was dressed in a Bigfoot costume that jumped out of the woods, scared me to death, but also probably made me run a little bit faster at that point. And the last descent was a lot of fun. There's a lot of switchbacks, and at that point, the third place female was literally right behind me. I could pretty much feel her breathing on my neck, and that actually made me run a lot faster than I normally would have going downhill. So that was good practice for me and a lot of fun. Once we finished that descent, it went right into about a mile back to the finish line. Very flat, and that's where I took off and managed to finish second place with an overall time of 2 hours and 46 minutes. And for my win, my first place female 30 to 39, I brought home maple syrup. Overall, it was an awesome experience, and I am very happy to have been able to share my experience with you guys. Thanks so much.
And then one outside of formal racing events, I also wanted to give you the update on Shan's cross-country effort. So for those of you who may or may not be following, Connecticut Shan Riggs is currently running from California to Connecticut. He entered into PA this week, hoping to arrive on the Connecticut coast, I think it's by December 1st. And his crew chief and ultra partner in crime, so to speak, Callie Vincent, I think will then set off on her own couple 100-mile effort, maybe from Chicago to home or something to that effect. Let's see, I'm hoping some of you out there might be able to catch Shan as he passes through PA this week and clips off New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut as he heads for the coast next week. So as of filming on Wednesday, November 18th, They ran from Pittsford to Bedford, PA, where they're bedding down for the night. And they'll continue east tomorrow, averaging somewhere around 40 miles a day. And they're out there between roughly 7:30 a.m. and 4 p.m. And you can track them at a link that I'll post, which is Shan's Spot Tracker. And you can also make a plan to intersect them via the planned route, which I'll also plug, well, in a photo here, but the link where you can check it in more real time on the website. So that's what we had for you from Events and Voices for the weekly rundown for this week, November, I think it's, I don't know, probably 19th when this will air. So thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you tomorrow for FKT Friday. All right, see ya.